And we are live.
Indeed, we're back again.
We are live.
Patriotic
Welcome.
Art Live.
Welcome to Patriotic Art Live.
Mm, Indeed, and I'm Donald Kent. Patriot is here. We do a weekly show Tuesday around this time, where we do live art based on a nationalist theme, a patriotic theme. And what's our theme today?
And today, as voted by the community, was No More Brother Wars. So,
No more brother
um,
wars. Yes, and I
yeah.
like how you're using polls now to ask the community. What do you want us to do a theme on here? That's nice because it engages our viewers more and lets them kind of have a little ownership of like what we're doing here. So
Yeah.
that's a really good process.
Yeah, we started out doing that quite early on when we formed the community. And it worked well then. And I think it's working well now. It'll be nice for
Yeah.
if the community got involved more actually doing work, but I realized that the poll hasn't been going out until sort of the day before stream. So from now
Mm,
on, we're gonna sort of do it straight after the show. So it'll give people the whole week, and then what we can do is review it whilst doing our
mm,
own artwork and review others people's work, whether it's a poem,
mhm.
piece of artwork, a drawing, a piece of graphic
Yeah.
design, whatever.
Yeah.
But at least it gives people
Mm,
that time to get involved and collaborate with us because we are trying to build a network of artists and creators and
mhm.
just revive our communities again. So
Yeah, it's really very much about culture building, community building. We're the artists of this culture, so there we have a certain. I believe we have a certain duty to the movement, to our people, and to provide inspiration, stimulation, entertainment,
uh-huh.
conversation. And through the arts, it's just a wonderful way that we can do that. So I'm quite happy
Exactly.
that we're doing this. Yeah, indeed.
So
Um,
shall we talk about our ideas and what we're going for with this?
yes. My art's always very like I start off with a really light pencil, so I don't know how well the audience can see. But do you want to begin? You want to go ahead and tell us about what you're going to be doing? By the way, I
Yes,
don't have your computer screen. I don't have your computer screen up on my channel. So
that's fine.
whatever we need to do to get that
That's
there.
fine.
Yeah.
I've got yours up on mine. I
Okay.
found a
I only
way.
have your avatar. Right. I only have your
Ah, right. I
avatar.
see. I see. I see. So let me present. I'm going to share my screen here,
Okay.
and 1 second.
We'll get up and running. Well, while you're doing that, I'll talk a little bit.
Yeah.
So before the show, we actually both agreed that this was a little bit of a difficult concept to visualize. Um, in the past 100 years or so, there's been very horrible wars in the West, World War One, World War Two, and on. And this has become a kind of meme in the white identity movement. No more brother wars, that we will never do our enemies work for them by depopulating ourselves in such horrible, cruel ways. I understand, of course, that history and World War One, World War Two are pretty complex. I would recommend that anyone who wants to have a good, unbiased view or understanding of at least World War II to check out Europa, the Last Battle. You can Google that, Europa, the Last Battle. Also, one that I think is perhaps better is called Parsifal, the hidden, I think it's called The Hidden Truth of World War II. Parsifal, anyway, it's some, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but that one, it's not as long. I think Europa, the last battle, is something like 8 or 9 hours long. It's a very thorough documentary on World War II. You know how they say that the what is it, that history is written by the victors.
Yeah.
So that And then we have a comedian in America who makes a joke. He says, "Isn't it amazing that all through history the good guys always won?" And it's obviously a play on the concept that like we never ever hear the other side. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, yeah,
get the
for
idea.
sure.
Norm Macdonald is the guy who made the joke. But it's time for people to get around the propaganda, the false history that lays the groundwork for false politics and false narratives, and all of the kind of illusions that we live in and that are hurting our people. So it's critical that people get some real historic understanding. So as far as visualizing it, my image here is there is a kind of an ominous villain type character kind of leaning down over the top of the screen, and
You
on
can
his
enlarge it
hands he
if you can. Sorry to interrupt, but you can enlarge it because then I can see it larger on my screen. So basically, just enlarge your artwork so it's
all right,
full screen.
give, give me a quick second here.
But
I
that's
just wanted to
enlarged
make sure that
mine.
you're right. That's yours, and then I'm gonna swing over to I think that.
I think that's it.
Are you getting a more enlarged view? Yeah. Again,
I think
I
so.
always start off with very light pencil, but I think you can kind of see there's this sort of bearded character here with certain physiological features that might indicate something about him, and he's going to have his hands on either side of the image, holding. I don't know. They're basically what you'd use to control a puppet, a marionette with strings. If you could think of
Okay.
puppet on strings, the strings will be broken, and he'll have that on both sides. And then there are two figures that are holding shaking hands in the center. And then beneath them, there's a kind of I'm going to sort of have a kind of a grassy area here, and under the grass, I'm going to have all these skulls in like buried in the dirt. And so this is kind of my conception of how specifically in the last 100 years. Well, okay, there's an expression: all wars are banker wars. I don't know if anyone in the chat has heard that. Salute to For White Well-Being. I just saw you in the chat. Welcome to the show.
Welcome.
I know there's a bunch of other people watching. If you want to say hi in the chat, that'd be great. We love audience engagement. So,
Yeah.
anything you want to contribute to that, and that adds so much to the show, because we all have different knowledge bases. We all know more or less about this and that. So some people kind of specialize in specific information. And so it's just very helpful to have, our friends in there saying,
Well,
hey,
we're
don't
trying to
forget
build
about this.
community.
Or,
That's
yeah.
the main thing. Community through common interests. And if you read some of or watch some of our podcasts before, and especially some of the clips we're making, recording of the clips from things that Donald speaks of, and obviously he's a very wise guy and has a lot to say. But yeah, we talk a lot
You
about
calling me a
connecting with.
wise guy?
You're a wise guy. You're a funny guy.
Yeah, you call me a wise guy? Get out of here.
A wise
No.
guy in the best sense, But
Oh, thank you. Okay.
yeah, we're trying to touch on a lot of talking points about connecting with our past, our ancestors, and utilizing creativity to and the arts to do that. And Donald, in one of my other streams, in the gaming stream, I spoke to Donald a lot and asked him a lot of questions about art history, and we kind of touch on how art has developed and in the latter sort of past 100 years, it's kind of developed for the worst. And how we basically emphasize art as something that we need to recapture in order to recapture our destiny as a people,
Yeah.
and take hold of our culture again, and doing that through art and creativity is one of the best ways for us to do that.
Indeed,
So
indeed.
we're trying to reach out to people that are outside of our circles as well to show that look, we're regular folk. We have a love for our people, our nations, and
Hmm.
you know that's not a bad thing. That's a very normal thing, very natural thing.
Of course, yeah, it's important. It's essential, you know. And I mean, it's interesting because I don't know that anyone's ever done this before, sort of in our in the history, at least of you know, I don't know what to call it, the movement, the white identitarian movement. I don't know that there's really been, of course, you know, the internet is it's opened up a lot of channels and helped a lot, you know.
Hmm.
You know, minus the censorship and the like. But what we're doing is, you know, there's no playbook for this. There's no instruction manual for how to do what we're doing. But we understand the urgency of our people coming together, and the arts are very typically a way in which, you know, people do that. So
Hmm.
it's and then I
Yes.
think there's also something entertaining about it as well. You know,
Yeah.
so that's
Like he's a
enjoyable.
wise guy and a funny guy.
So funny how? What are you talking
Funny
about?
how? How do I make you laugh?
Yeah,
How do I amuse you?
what do I entertain you? Is that what you tell me?
Yeah, we could talk
So
about
getting
some
my
of our favorite
like,
mafia films if you want. I mean, that's part of our
yeah,
culture.
getting my
But let me
getting my
just
good fellas.
talk a little bit on my art piece and what I'm trying to achieve here.
Okay, sure. Let me
It's quite
pull
a
it up
hard
here.
topic, and nothing immediate comes to mind. It's a very you could talk about anything and or visualize it, so many different things with No More Brother Wars. The obvious first ideas I had was to kind of have like two masculine sort of hands coming together and shaking, you know, like alpha arms just
Yeah,
embracing each other and No More Brother Wars.
mm,
But I thought that's a bit
right.
too obvious. And then I kind of wanted to do more of a landscape, something monumental, and I'm basically right now exploring visuals that almost symbolize a an iconic structure that is there to as a reminder, a constant reminder to our people, almost like a an obelisk or monument, megalithic structure that people will look up at wherever they are and see it sort of in the distance, and it says to them, "No more brother wars." You know, love thy brother. That's
Oh, very, very
that is
nice.
it.
Very nice.
And so I'm just exploring right now, sort of bridges and things like that.
Hmm.
Maybe almost a road crossing through as a crossroads, a point um, for people to remember.
Hmm. Marvelous. That's a very charming idea, and it's interesting how, I don't know. I mean, when we think of monuments, of course, they're you know, made out of stone or
Yeah,
bronze or
yeah,
this or that. But I feel like, why can't paintings and drawings be monuments too? You know, I guess it would sort of depend on how they were framed and where they were located. I suppose murals maybe act more in this regard. You know,
yeah, yeah,
so
exactly. So, what was your piece again? You're doing a more of an illustrative
yeah.
piece.
So I guess I'll zoom in on my screen a little bit here to kind of help out a bit. I have to pull this down a bit. So I'm using a darker pencil because it's not coming through for the audience. So on the two sides, I have the puppet master's hands with the whatever those devices are that you control a marionette. I'll have the strings broken, and then essentially, me being American, I just kind of want to use an American soldier and a German soldier specifically. Um, I guess I feel strongly about certain things regarding German history and ideology
Okay,
that I would like to kind of communicate through these visuals.
awesome.
Especially, I'm sorry.
Yeah, sounds good.
I,
It's
I
looking good. It's taking
okay.
shape.
So it's just coming together. I'm actually going to look up. I need a kind of a visual on like the anatomy of a handshake so that it doesn't look funky. This is a thing that artists have to do. We use a lot of visual references in our work.
Yeah, yeah.
um, yeah, there's in the old days before the internet, you had folders of images that you could just see something in a magazine, cut it out, and just keep it on the side because
Mhm.
you knew you're going to need, like, let's say I need to draw a specific type of car. Well, what does that look like exactly? So then I have to go find the image. So of course it's super handy with the internet now.
Yeah, it's almost too easy. I was so tempted to kind of start utilizing AI images and then bash them together, but trying to make a concerted effort to just focus on my
Mhm.
the things that I learned really. Um, and if I need to
Mhm.
use images after, it will just be for textures, but I want to build the image up myself, um,
Mhm.
and just
So
utilize
that's an
creativity.
interesting. Yeah, I'm kind of curious about, like, why is it, or like what are the limitations that you put on yourself regarding the use of AI in your work,
Well,
and why?
if when I've used it in the past, my limitations were sort of I, I won't post anything out without editing it, doing some form of editing,
Okay.
and if I did, I'd at least put some filters on, and
Okay.
yeah, or do yeah, I'd have to edit something before calling it my, but yeah,
Mhm.
I feel like I have to work to achieve the end result at least, or do something. Um,
Yeah, you have to alter it in some way.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Um, I'd say that, like, right now, the greatest use of AI in our movement is for memes. The memes out there are just crazy. That's so, like,
yeah,
super
yeah,
funny. There's a lot of, there's always current events going on, and there was, I don't want to get too spicy, but
yeah.
there's things that happen, and then our guys go like nuts with the AI memes, and
Yeah,
you're just
yeah, yeah.
laughing your head off like
I
all
think they're
day,
great,
looking
great
at
for
it.
AI memes, to be honest.
Yeah, I
Because
agree.
it's a type of creativity in itself, in the sense
It
that
really
it's
is.
it's purely conceptual, and
Uh-huh.
it gives it opens the barrier to entry. It makes it lower in terms of producing an actual visual image.
Mm.
Um,
Right.
so I think it's kind of fun in that respect. Uh,
I think it actually sort of empowers more people too. Like, you don't have to have drawing skills per se. You can just, if you have a good idea, then
True.
you can put it out, and that's what we're doing. So, our guys are doing. So it's
I know there's a lot of
quite nice to.
artists in sort of like the concept art and illustration industry that are
Mm.
lost a lot of work because of it. Um,
Well, that's the other topic, especially in the arts, is, how is this good, or how is it
mhm.
bad, frankly. There, I saw an interview with Nicolas Cage recently about AI. He was quite upset because he was talking about how Hollywood wants to, basically, when you're dead, they will still own your likeness and create movies with you, and it's like very real.
Yeah, yeah.
He was talking about how they want to put James Dean in a Vietnam movie right now.
Wow.
Like, they're working on trying to get that
How do
going.
they get the rights
Now,
though?
obviously, James.
I mean,
Well, that's, there's that this plugs into some other news recently about. Oh gosh, I'm not paraphrasing this very well, but it's some sort of law that they make laws out of freaking
uh-huh.
blue air, or no, out of thin air. They make it out of the blue, and then they say that, like, anybody's image can be used indefinitely after their death, due to this fancy law that we just invented. So it's anything that anyone has put out on the internet is basically free game,
Mm.
you know? Yeah, yeah.
I
So
think,
this is
yeah, I mean, the way it seems to be going is the utmost sort of personal preference, isn't it? It's like there'll basically be the blueprint of the animation. It'll be fully rigged with the blueprint, and then you kind of apply the themes over the top. Like you can have your favorite star, and that will be licensed. You can plug that in. You can have such and such playing this character, and someone playing that character, and then people might have their own best versions. I don't know. He's
that's
really gonna.
yeah.
The possibilities right now are kind of quite numerous in the
Sure,
ways that
sure.
things can
Uh,
go.
Suffice to say that the future is going to be very, very weird, you
Mm,
know, in terms of like all the things that are hard to imagine. Human cloning is already happening. I mean,
mm-hmm.
it's just there's so much crazy. I really anytime something comes on the radar, like some information is put out in the public, it's always kind of couched in this sort of like, oh, there's this new thing. But my understanding of these things is that they're already like 10 years ahead on whatever that thing is,
Yeah,
whatever the
yeah,
technology is, what have you. And they're just essentially trying to ease the public into it.
yeah. I agree with that.
UFOs are a huge UFO technology is a very, very huge example of that. That's a whole other rabbit hole.
I know we touched on that a little bit in the gaming stream that I did with you. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean,
Something that
y-
on my art streams, I've just been talking more and more about it, and I'm starting to be like, you know what, maybe I better back off this topic because I'm going to become like known as the UFO guy or something in this community, you know.
yeah.
And I
Well,
just feel like it's my only comment here is that we need to start thinking of it just as normal as we would think of like Bitcoin or AI or any other thing
mm,
that's happening. It's a reality that is out there now.
yeah, yeah. I get you. Um,
But yeah, so you're making short clips uh, of the gaming stream that we did recently.
yes,
Maybe you can
making
kind of
short
review.
clips, and
Yeah, maybe. You can,
it's still quite new to me streaming, so we're learning as we go, and
mhm.
um, like the things I'm going to improve are making sure that the sound levels are actually perfect before moving on, so just things become more easy to edit afterwards and so on. And
Mhm.
you know, I'm not really trying to chase subscribers and things. I just my,
Yeah.
my goal is to just put content out, put clips of us talking, clips of us discussing topics, things that can
Yeah.
reach people. And
Right. And it's very magical because you're not we don't plan this. It's just like, the topic comes up and somehow or other, somebody says something profound or interesting at least.
mhm,
And it's just really wonderful how that comes together organically.
yeah, exactly.
Mhm. So I have to look up a U.S. soldier World War II uniform. Try to keep this historically accurate, folks.
Mhm, mm, interesting. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
it's just crazy how much World War II plays into the American narrative, at least. And knowing what I know now about the truth of World War II, it's
yeah,
kind of it's horrifying to be like, there's so many lies and so much
I know,
misinformation.
but it still goes around
Americans
today. I
have
think in some ways
this
it
time.
in some ways, it's almost worse when I hear um, sort of more amplified versions of truth, not truth, lies unfold, and people think that they're discovering something new, because then they're down a
Mm.
rabbit hole whereby, because one thing I've noticed is when people have a belief system or they've invested
Yeah.
time into something, believing
Yeah.
something, they are
Right.
so they've invested their emotions into that as well. They've invested, they've become part
Their
of a
identity.
lie. Yeah, it's their identity exactly. And so
Right.
when they embody that, they're more reluctant to go and to accept that they were wrong. You know,
Yeah.
like
Hugely,
my
hugely.
dad is
Yeah.
a sort of full-on Judeo-Christian type, uh, and
Mhm. Mhm.
I've showed him, you know, scriptures, for example, things in the Bible which
Mhm.
completely go against, um, things that he would
Wow.
believe. And
Yeah. Yeah.
even though it's there, it's he still can't see it, and it's the belief, it's the doctrines that people tend to believe in rather
Mm.
than the core texts
Yeah.
themselves. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's and when people start believing in different strands or variants of a truth, and it's kind of amalgamated into something else, and then there's a new wave of something that people are believing in, or and then teaching others. It's like, oh man, it's in some ways more damaging, because that's picked up some, it's gathering momentum, whereas old
Right.
truths are losing momentum. If that makes
Yeah,
sense.
I'm this topic is really, really, really critical. It's something I'm almost obsessed with, is how to break people out of these old ideas that, like they're, you grow up, you learn it in school, you see it on TV, Hollywood, this, that, and everybody agrees on and on and on and on. And it's this gigantic echo chamber. And then when you show them the data, they can't change. It's a gigantic, like, there's a sort of intellectual bankruptcy going on with our people, and they can't. Just exactly what you just described there. It's a crisis. I feel that
Mm.
on the one hand, there's something psychological about it, but I always look at it from a sociological point of view. That if you knew, let's just say, for example, like in the 1950s, if you were talking about UFOs, you would become ostracized. Like people in your town would think you were a wacko. They wouldn't talk to you. Your reputation would be ruined. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Whereas now it's just like it's on CNN, it's on Fox. It's like it's just out there now.
Yeah.
And people still think it's a little weird, but it's that you won't lose your reputation or whatever. So there's a lot of fear there. There's a lot of social control through normalizing lies. And our job is to break that down. It's not going to
Yeah.
be easy. It's not going to be easy.
Not
But
at all. It is.
yeah, yeah.
But I think slowly people will learn, and um, people learn through pain a lot of the time. And
Oh God.
one thing my like I
Yeah.
talked about my dad, but I mean, there's some things which
Mhm.
he is kind of grown wise to, and obviously it's the
Yeah.
threat of certain groups outnumbering
Mhm.
the natives in the UK, for example.
Yes. Yes.
And when they come out to protest in massive numbers, it's suddenly
Mhm.
like a bit of a wake-up call for some people, and it's like, wow, it's
Mhm.
staggering. We never realized that
Right.
there was this
Right.
level of migration,
Mhm.
and it kind of wakes people up a little bit. So maybe
Mhm.
it's the start of something, but I think often certain truths are for a different generation. You know.
That's a really good point. This becomes like a generational problem. People who are like I'd say my son's generation, they don't even bat an eye at these things. They're so like I really feel that their generation is actually going to be the one that sort of makes the big change and the big move
Mm.
that we need.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
They like, I don't mean this in any kind of mean spirited way, but once the older generations die out, there's nobody to carry on
Yeah,
those
I agree.
illusions.
I agree.
Yeah.
And
So
that's not in a nasty way, but for the
that's
reasons,
precisely what I'm saying.
yeah, for the reasons we've explained, is a lot of the time indoctrinations have such a stronghold over people and their minds that it is,
Yeah.
the natural cause of death is paving way for a new generation that will emerge with a
Mm.
different mindset. They've grown up with different experiences, and
Hmm.
um, a different outlook on life completely.
Very
The
much.
boomer
Yeah.
generation, for example, they've had a really good life. They grow up
Yeah.
with riding the waves, like the housing market, for
Mhm.
example, and things like that.
Sure, sure, sure.
So life
I
wasn't that hard for them. Well, I don't want to tie everyone with the brush, but generally speaking, um,
comparatively, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I just read an article recently and had a little tit for tat with somebody online about this, that they're expecting the what do you call it? The travel industry to boom and
yeah,
the housing industry to essentially collapse. It's not collapsing by accident. BlackRock, Vanguard are buying up all the homes in America,
sure,
and it's meant to destroy. It's meant to force people into the city, and it's just, all of the horseshit that they do. It's not an accident. But there was some Zoom or some millennial, somebody saying like, oh, might as well move to Thailand and blah, and party my life away because there's no way that I can afford a house. Da, da, da. And
mm,
that's these are. I had just read an article about that, and it's like disturbing. I mean, they control so much, and they planned this stuff out so thoroughly that it's hard to even imagine how we're going to survive these changes. The social engineering, the economic engineering, it's all there. And it's blackpilling, but I refuse to give up. You know,
no, I mean that's we can't give up. We do what we do,
no,
and
right?
I don't think I could just sit and do nothing. I've always been the type of person,
Yeah,
I need to speak truth, like as I see it. I might not be
yeah,
right on everything, but I
yeah,
need to voice something, and not necessarily for clicks or
yeah,
um,
yeah.
I'd rather stick my hand out close to a fire to kind of point the fire out
Hmm.
than keep it safe where no one can see it. You know?
Yeah, I've wondered myself about like what is it about us in the movement that like how did we get this way per se? What's different about us that we saw the truth and then we refused to live a lie,
Yeah.
whereas the normies, that they see the truth over and over and over, and they've people like us even try to push it in their faces a little bit, but yet somehow like they choose to remain in the dark and to live a lie.
Mm.
You see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so for me, I mean, this is, and I'd love to hear anybody's thoughts on all of this stuff. I should be looking at the chat a little bit here. I'm so into my drawing. But the yeah anyway, I think you get where I'm going with this. It's a
No,
really, really
yeah.
critical
I
issue.
completely
Yeah.
understand.
So I want to say hello to our friends in the chat for White Well-Being. Tricky Woo, great to have you. I think I've seen you before on my channel, so welcome to our community. He says, or he or she, I don't know. Tricky Woo says all wars are banksters' wars. Da da da. So that's a huge thing. that we were talking about earlier
Hmm.
before the show. I had mentioned this phrase, "All wars are banker wars," and that's a deep topic. Um, we got Hollandier, my good friend Hollandier. It's great to see you again, brother. I did a show on Hollandier. He's an incredible composer. So I urge
Yeah, he
people
is.
to look through my YouTube channel and find the interview with Hollandier. You'll get to hear some of his music. Extremely cinematic, very beautiful. I don't really know of anybody in our creative sphere that makes music like his. So, and it has like an extremely strong European spirit that comes through.
Yes.
So, I just want to
Yeah, I
get
definitely
that
agree. It's from what
huge
I've heard, I
compliment.
used to use it in some of my videos um like my old time lapse videos, and it really was a great fit for them. Just for like you say, the like sort of European spirit was there, and
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, he's just got it. I mean, he's I mean, some people just got it,
some people
and like
just got it.
whatever it is, he's got it.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, that magic touch or what have you. Um, Beautiful stuff. I like my music is kind of like, you know, mixture of like classic rock and pop punk and stuff like that.
Hmm.
I don't have a I My classical background is more in singing because of just, what I learned in school. I actually, believe it or not, I actually competed in like an opera singing thing when I was young, and
Did you
that's
really?
just my yeah, I know that's crazy, right?
Wow.
But I mean, I had a music teacher that just recognized my talent and said, "Well, I want to challenge yourself, and so I'm going to sign you up for this challenge, this opera singing challenge, or whatever." And I hated it. I don't know how old I was. I was in junior high, at a seventh, eighth grade or something. But at the same time, I thought, I'm proud to be a musician. I want to be a good musician, and this is sort of like getting your black belt kind of thing. It was
Yeah, for sure.
a good thing to do, even though it was hard. Whatever. I got my buddy in the chat, my channel. He goes by the name My Channel. He says that he doesn't recognize uh, the other voice here. Have you seen this show yet? My channel. We've got my buddy Patriot in the UK. It's not me. It's one for once. It's not me doing an English accent. So maybe he's.
Yes, I am Paul Patriot. I go by Patriot Online, and yeah, I run the Patriotic Arts community, and
Yeah.
we are joining forces across the pond to
Indeed.
strengthen our connections really, and
Mm,
and bolster the nationalist arts movements really, and
indeed.
this is one
Indeed.
of our ideas. No more brother wars
Yeah.
is the topic that was chosen by our community. We posted it around, and I think went into the White Art Collective, Patriotic Arts community, and this was the
Hmm.
one that was chosen. So
Yeah.
yeah, I am not too sure which idea I will go with.
Oh, let me zoom in on your screen. Let's have a look at what you're doing here. So you illustrated this, and then
Yeah,
you kind of toned it in. Oh, I think I see the two figures there.
yeah. So I'm
It,
kind
it
of
almost,
thinking of like a bridge, and there are two figures.
yeah.
They're sort of holding out their arms to join, and I'm gonna. I mean, that's just one idea. The others, I mean, that was
Mm,
where the other idea started, and then these are just sketches.
mm-hmm.
This one here would be more like a kind of a bridge with sometimes you have to color it in to get a bit more context.
Mm-hmm.
Did
Yeah,
you
yeah.
did you do much concept art ever?
Say that again. I'm sorry, I didn't
Did you
catch
ever do
that.
much concept art?
Oh yeah, a lot,
Yeah,
a lot. I mean, mostly for comics, but
yeah,
I've done concept art for role-playing games,
cool.
and I've done storyboarding for film even,
Uh-huh.
which I enjoy a lot.
Storyboarding's fun.
Yeah, comics and storyboarding, are kind of like, cousins or brother and sister in a sense. So
Yeah.
it's not terribly difficult or far off from what I'm used to doing. Um, so that's a neat thing. But like the concept art, I don't know what it is. I've just always had a huge love for science fiction, and
Hmm.
I just it's weird. I always feel like I need to apologize for that though. Like somehow or other, if you're a fine artist or something, that you don't indulge in that fantasy artwork, and poo poo on you. You're not a real artist. This is an idea that one of my fine art professors ingrained in me when I
Yeah.
was younger, and I
Right.
still haven't gotten over it. So I guess I need
I
therapy.
think. Yeah. Well, what is it? I think it's because a lot of people at the time saw it as commercial art, so it's not really a true expression of you. I think that was their kind of angle, wasn't it?
That's definitely part of it. I think what it is that there's this bias that no serious art can be portrayed through like fantasy fiction, and that's
Mm.
absurd. That's completely insane. I think through the years, as I've looked at this, what is mythology? But in a sense, a kind of I don't want to say a fiction, but a narrative. That you know teaches us about life, the processes of life, conveys various ideas about
Hmm.
death and love and change and manhood and all these important aspects. So I don't know, I guess I'm sort of annoyed that people have these ideas. I think that fine art in the history of art is extremely narrative driven. All most of art history it's talking about the Bible, or different wars that we've been through, or of course mythologies, etc. I guess maybe this is I don't know. I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that so far? Maybe I'm just a bad person or something.
On what
I should
mythology and art and
stop
stuff.
doing.
Well, Frank Frazetta was
Well,
one.
yeah, specifically the well, no, what I'm referring to is the narrative nature of art.
Um, well, it's storytelling as well, isn't it? I mean, you could write an epic
Yeah.
story, and you painting that with words. So I don't see the difference with painting a visual from your mind. You're still capturing. I
Hmm.
mean, what else was a stained glass window, for example? I mean, they used those in churches to tell the stories of the Bible because the majority of the population was illiterate. Um, I would
Well, there you
still
go.
say that it was artwork. I mean, all of the marble
Hmm.
sculptures were telling a story, and that
Hmm.
was a lot of it's fantasized. So we was doing
Yeah.
fantasy um, from the earliest explorations of art, I think.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hollandier has a great comment here. He says those professors are just afraid of exaggerated illustrations of armored fellows with sharp swords heroically mogging mongrel kobolds.
Wow,
I don't know. It's
intense.
just funny. But like, see, he brings up an interesting point that I want to talk on a bit.
Mm,
Is the masculine nature of these stories, of
yeah.
heroicism and these things. In the modern times, postmodern art, etc., it's extremely anti-masculine. It's extremely feminized. The whole. I don't need to go, lecture on that. I think most of us know that.
Yeah.
So this is perhaps one of the aspects of why my teacher was kind of poo-pooing my background in that, or my interest in that. Um,
Perhaps.
yeah, yeah. Anyway, Hollandier goes on to say they want soft feathers and plush pillows. They want you to use the sponge to texture the silken upholstery. So, um, anyway, there you go. I think something that maybe, because like, how do you distinguish between fine art and fantasy art? And obviously, it's the theme of the art, right? Like if it's sword and sorcery, dragons and wizards and da da da,
Yeah.
versus, um, you know, just a straight landscape that's drawn, or sort of rather maybe painted with a beautiful aesthetic and a beautiful technical style or something. And there's nothing obviously wrong with that, right? I mean, that's marvelous. Beauty, aesthetics, these are important things. Um, but that can also be applied to images of, like, tales of knights and glory and various mythology, etc., etc. So I just think they cross over so much that I don't know. I just don't think that they're enemies of each other, if you will.
No, I don't think so either. I think storytelling has always been a great asset of ours. It's been
Hmm.
used to do a lot of things to build morality. It's been used to
Yeah,
kind of teach lessons and
sure, sure.
encourage and build character. So
Hmm. Hmm.
I think vast majority of our culture, a lot of it anyway, it's been built on figures, mythological
Mm.
figures, all wrapped in moral stories and narrative
Right,
to
right, right.
guide us, help us, and you know.
I hear you.
Yeah, so I've decided on I'm gonna do this one because it seems to be the more resolved out of all of them. Um,
Which one? The bridge?
yeah, the bridge with the two arms
Hmm.
joining. Um,
Sounds good.
yeah,
Sounds good. I like the concept of the bridge. I think there's something very poetic about that.
hmm
That we're bridging ourselves to each other, or we're bridging, in a sense, back to our family, our racial family. Um, that's a very nice allegory. It's a very nice allegory.
yeah. So thank you. I think I just need to. So I've got the composition. Uh,
Hmm.
I don't know if you do this with your work, but
Hmm.
one thing I did learn when I was training up doing concept art is to flip the canvas and
Sort of like like, change the how on the horizontal, like flip it
yeah,
over. Is
yeah,
that
yeah.
correct?
So it
It's funny
helps.
what I do. Okay, what I do, my trick, and this is not digital, this is with actual, physical or art, is I will look at it through a mirror.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Same
And
thing, same thing.
amazingly, yeah, it's just insane. Amazingly, you see it like you've seen it for the first time. And then you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I made that huge mistake or
hmm
whatever the thing is. I gotta get that fixed right away, straight away. I
Yeah,
did a portrait of Francis Parker Yockey. It's like acrylic on canvas. Um, this guy named Cultured Thug, who does a show on fascism, that he
I've
bought
heard
it
of him.
for me. Yeah, he owns it now. But anyway, the what was the point? So I have a photograph of Francis Parker Yockey, and I'm working on this canvas doing the portrait. And I'm like, damn, there's just something's not right here. What am I doing wrong? How do I shoot? I can't wrap my head around this. So I take a photo of the painting, and
Mm.
then I import it into Photoshop with the photo of Francis Parker Yockey, and
Mm.
then I make it kind of transparent, and I put my painting over the portrait, and then I can see, like, oh, that's where it's off. This is where it's wonky, and I realize, oh, I just need to, and I have to kind of enlarge this area here, and
yeah.
painting in a way is kind of like sculpting in this way. So
Yeah.
anyway, it was
Yeah.
really, really good, good thing, good technique, sort of trick that I used. Evening to Woodlander, welcome to the show, my friend. The
Awesome.
theme today is No More Brother Wars. So we're both doing images. Mine is very specifically about World War II. This figure in the background has these kind of what do you call them? Right. I don't know what the name is, but like if you're controlling a marionette puppet, you've got this apparatus here, and so here he's got this, but the strings are broken, and he can no longer control the two sides in this war. Down underground here, I'm going to have all these skulls, and I might even put some blood in there or something to sort of show, this is we have to not be manipulated by globalist forces, let's say. I think globalist forces is a nice way to put it.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Definitely.
But yeah, I really enjoyed being on your gamer show. What was some of the highlights of that stream?
Well, the questions that I asked you really, and like I said, the beginning sound wasn't the best. The levels weren't great, and then one of your fellow followers, friendly followers, pointed out that it wasn't right.
Yeah.
So we fixed that, and then it was fine. But yeah, so I had to do a bit of editing to get around the first couple of clips, few clips. So
All right.
yeah, aren't the best sound quality, but it's still, but especially when you got the captions, it's still worth watching and seeing what was
Mm-hmm.
said. And so yeah, we discussed a lot about your art career, how you got into art, how you well how you was pushed into art through your family. They
I,
saw it and from an early age that you were talented, and then nurtured that.
mm,
You nurtured that, um, and then you
Thanks.
discussed a lot about creativity and then art movements and how that affected art and creativity across the board. More
Yeah.
recently, and how things kind of unfolded, and especially through the arts that has contributed to the fall of our culture in modern times. And then we got onto
Mm.
the real deep subjects, didn't we? About subconsciousness and your time in Japan, which was very interesting. Um,
I thought that was a fun kind of part of the show, actually, was to get into, and I was trying to talk about things that most people would never know. That we see Japan and other cultures sort of through like a romantic lens, and unless you've lived there or what have you, you don't actually know like what's wrong. You know what I'm saying? And
mhm.
I love Japan and whatever. I wouldn't call myself a Japanophile or something, but I do have a love for it, and I just thought, I'm going to humanize this topic and explain some of the things that are like, well, it's actually a very oppressive culture for the Japanese themselves, and so it kind of went into that a bit. Not not knocking the culture or whatever so much, but just sort of explaining,
Yeah.
how it kind of came to be that way, and it's a different culture.
Well, you even
So
said that there was one guy there that was envious of your freedom, and he was wealthy, and
yeah, yeah.
um,
Uh,
yeah, it's interesting. Uh,
so what I can't wrap my head around is the whole. There's a lot of people in our sphere that have these like anime avatars of like these like cute little girls and stuff, and I'm like, I don't get that. Like, I still can't figure out like what's the connection between
Anime girls.
nationalism and like this silly anime girls. I'll never figure that out. But
I
um,
don't know.
yeah,
Uh,
yes, you are correct there, Mr. Woodlander. Donald's English accent is getting better. Hippocratic Oath is here, my good buddy. Um, I'm really grateful to people like Hippocratic Oath that come and watch my my comic book stream. That my angle is I've got this great freelance job. I'm working on comics, and when I'm not doing freelance for somebody else, I've got my own comics that I'm working on, and I just feel like, well, I might as well stream. Like I don't.
Mm.
Whatever. I'm just alone in my studio. It'd be fun to have kind of hang out with the guys, that kind of thing. And Hippocratic Oath comes, we have a lot of really good conversation, actually. So it's pretty cool.
Awesome.
And yeah, so it's good to have
So
some
yeah,
familiar
it's
friends.
with this idea. I'm kind of building the tunnel, and it's kind of going through his mouth. What do you think? Does that
Let me
work?
zoom in a bit.
Does it not work?
Um,
Is that
I
a bit
see
too?
what you're saying. I think that I would
Yeah,
say personally that anatomically it's too low.
yeah, it
Do you
is.
understand what I'm saying? But I don't think
I
that's
think it takes
terrible.
away
The
from the
image, yeah, okay,
yeah,
yeah. Why don't you maybe not do that? But here's, if you don't mind, just tossing some ideas out. Perhaps under behind the bridge, where the horizon line could be, you
yeah.
could think of, like,
The horizon
would
line
it be
would be
city?
about there.
Okay,
Well,
like,
yeah,
is it the ocean? Is there some roads in the background? Is there a city back there?
yeah. I
You see what
see.
I'm saying? Like some kind of like
Well,
utopian imperium.
I did have a thought of showing how the this is a bridge, sort of from this perspective. But I was thinking how in the far distance there could be a clone of this, for example, of this. It's almost sort of looping round in some form of
Mhm.
circular. So in the far distance, you know. Um,
Oh, that's a great idea. That makes so much more sense. You're kind of
so
echoing the form.
yeah, exactly. So it's more of a continuation of that thing, and
That's a great. I totally love
I
that
want to do
idea.
that.
I want to add as well, like in the very foreground, that darker area.
Uh huh.
It looks like the side of a mountain, and
Yeah, it
that there's
is.
like a
Yeah,
path. So like
yeah.
putting like some very
Figures.
small figures walking on it,
Yeah.
towards
That's
this.
always good for scale,
That
isn't
would
it?
you just took the words right out of my mouth. That's precisely what I was going to say.
Yeah,
See, great
perfect.
minds think alike.
There we are, trained in the arts. Yeah, we're
Yes.
gonna have them small because I want these figures to be megalithic. So the whole point of this idea is literally
Mhm.
to be a structure which constantly reminds people, a monument that no more brother
Mhm.
wars. That's the bridges
Yeah.
of no brother wars.
Oh God. That's see that sounds like the name of our first album right there. You know.
Yeah. You know what? I haven't actually listened to much of your music or to any of your
You-
music, so I would. You'll have to send me some links after the stream, and I'll
oh,
check
oh,
them out.
okay, okay. It's funny you should say that because just last night I was jamming with a buddy, and I'm working on a bunch of new songs. I've got a bunch
Okay.
of new pieces in development. I've had a bit of a, what do you call it? Sort of a dry spell, I suppose.
Yeah.
Um, but a lot of it has to do with the fact that I want to. How do I put this? I'm overwhelmed with a lot of things, and I really want the lyrics to be just right. There's so many changes going on, and I don't know. I'm just kind of generally overwhelmed in life. So in
Mm.
order to write music, I gotta have a certain mental, emotional space where I can focus and relax and kind of let the inner shaman out. Let the words flow
Mhm.
and that kind of thing. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
and
sometimes creativity comes when we least expect it, and I think artists and creatives are more susceptible to fluctuations in mood and mood and
yeah,
motivation. I think
sure, sure,
I don't
yeah.
know if I just think more academic people are more kind of rigid in their thinking and straightforward,
Oh
whereas
God, yeah.
creatives tend to be a bit more sort of off the cuff, and by nature we just can go into all sorts of
Right.
random states.
Yeah. I try to be balanced in the way that I live and all that stuff. But there's something to say for the nature of emotions. Like what are they're not just there to like annoy us, you know.
Mm,
But like emotions actually are extremely vital in terms of how would we be motivated to do certain things? Like you were just talking earlier about suffering and how through pain we're pushed to accomplish things and to learn things and grow and da da da. So
hmm
it's just an important thing. Um, I don't like how emotions are associated as this sort of feminine thing. You know, I don't know. I guess I don't really jive so much with that kind of thinking, but um, it's an important part of the creative mechanism of how the brain works and all of that. You have to really feel something to in order to think it through and design, poetry and art and the various things. And then how is it that other people care about your art? Well, it's because they have feelings about the topic, um, so it's a good thing, it's a good thing. But ironically, to your point earlier about like analytical thinking people, what have you, I'm actually knocking heads a lot lately with someone in my life who is kind of a bean counter, like like
A
somebody
bean
who's just like,
counter. Not heard
you
that
know that
term
term?
before.
Okay, that's like an old expression in America
Someone who's
for like
boring.
just yes,
Okay.
yeah, like the someone whose job is, like their kind of work is just like they're like an office person, who, you know,
Okay.
they just do paperwork and crunch numbers and don't have any kind of
So
creativity or
they
something like
lack yeah, I guess they lack something exciting in their lives.
that. They just think in very mathematical terms. Everything is just I don't know. I don't know how else to put it. We all have different learning, whatever. We're born with sort of different learning capacities and what have you.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got like you've got kinetic learning, you've got mathematical learning, social learning, visual learners. Like artists like us would be visual learners. We understand things very well. We process things visually in our minds, etc. So, someone like that would be more of a mathematical learner.
Yeah.
And suffice to say, it's like this kind of person really can't understand me, and it's
Yeah.
very frustrated with me. Like, there's something about like, why don't you do it this way? This is the logical way to do it. And it's frustrating. It's not like a fun kind of
Imagine.
relationship to yeah. Sharpen my pencil through.
Sounds like a mini motorbike you've got there.
Yeah, I'm revving up my motorcycle here. No, it's like an electronic pencil sharpener. I could just
Yeah, I think
lie
this
and
is
say it does.
working. The composition on this. And hey, why not continue this all the way onto the far, far mountain up here? So you've got these two figures. I'm never going to get this finished in this stream, by the way. So it's going to be
Right,
my
right. I
homework
know.
for.
Speaking of
um,
speaking of
but
which, I want to show the work I did from last week.
awesome.
I
Yeah.
had some time this morning to focus on it. I'd say it's still not done, but it's made a lot of progress. I simply have to tweak it. I'll talk about this a little bit. What was our theme last week? Our blood,
Um,
our soil,
the theme was blood and our blood and our soul. So
soul.
yeah, the our blood is our soul.
Yes.
So the idea being that our blood is the thing which is passed down through our ancestors, and all of our traits, our impulses, our DNA, our information, that is essentially our soul. And it kind of harbors our spirit, which is the more conscious side that interacts with the environment and so on. But the soul is that thing which is essentially connects us to our ancestors.
Yeah, it gets metaphysical. It's we're getting
Yeah.
metaphysical on some of that. Here I was trying to illustrate a family in the kind of triangular form here. My work's very symmetric, obviously, and then these are sort of the spirits of the ancestors. I have these two kind of symbolic guards, a Roman guard and this other guy. You know, and then the passage of the moons and the suns and the, showing the passage of time and how we're all linked.
Yeah,
So
that looks
there's,
awesome.
yeah, I'm, how do I say it? I'm building it up though. I'm still layering it up. I feel like a
Yeah,
few really bold
you
color
still have to ink
choices.
it, right?
Well, I don't know that I want to. I feel like I rely on inking
Too
so
much.
much. Yeah, I want it to be a little more painterly.
Okay.
And so, but in specifically in these cases, I'm using colored pencil and this kind of material. So, and then I will add paint on it, acrylic and the like, so that way it's a nice sort of mixed media
Yeah.
flavor.
I look forward to seeing the finished piece then.
Yeah, like I said, eventually when I have enough work from this show, I'm going to publish a book. And I already have one book out, Imperium Calling. You can in my channel you'll see the link to my website, and you can pick up that book from there if anyone's interested.
Boom calling.
Imperium Calling.
Yeah.
And so Imperium it's really a concept that I've been kind of pushing basically in my content on my shows. I have a series called Patri.Art,
Okay.
and it's the idea, it's the idea that eventually in an ideal world, we will have our own European imperium, that we will have all of our own lands, all of our own connection. I'm even so far as that we won't be giving away our technology to other countries that can weaponize it against us. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
if you think about, like, you have all these foreigners in our countries learning our sciences, medicine, this, that, and the other thing, and then they go and make better versions or other versions or knockoff versions, and they can use our tools against us. So why would we do that? You get the idea.
Yeah. No, I understand. Yeah. No, I think that would be an ideal situation. Um,
Yeah.
I think we should definitely walk alone, and
Yeah.
unfortunately we've always made the mistake of
Right.
basically interacting with others and dominating others as
Yeah.
well, which has been to our detriment to a certain extent.
Big time. A friend of mine was talking about how overpopulation in Africa has a lot to do with whites, in terms of like the money that we send, the food, the medicine we send, the various things of our civilization that we give them, and then overpopulation happens, and then that feeds into all the problems that we have, etc.
Yeah. Well,
So
exactly.
we need yeah, I just feel strongly that we need to have our own unique space, and that we can just share our technologies and our economy, our art, our cultures just among ourselves. There's that notion that access to or proximity to white people is not a human right. I think
Yeah.
maybe some of people in the audience have heard that. Where would
Well,
these other countries be without our technologies?
well, that's it. I think, and I don't think many would agree with that statement either. Many other peoples or different races, but I think it's wholeheartedly true, really, that we have contributed so much in terms of
Yeah.
medicine, technology. In fact, sorry,
Mhm.
a fact statement stating that 97% of the latest sort of technology in the 21st century is from the mind of a white
Mhm.
man.
Of
And
course.
so,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, that's a massive feat of achievement. I mean, it's a massive blessing to the whole of humanity, really. And
So,
and we don't really get much thanks for that, but we get the general comment would be, well, if you hadn't have colonized us, or if you hadn't have
yeah, yeah, yeah.
did this to us, then maybe
Right, right.
we'd have thought of that, or
No.
or you've stolen our history and you're trying to take the credit for it.
Right, right.
So
It's what it all boils down to is jealousy. So, like, you'll find that like East Asian cultures, they admire us. That's because they already have their own civilization. Whereas people that can't produce civilization, they hate us, and yet they want all of the benefits of living around us. You
true.
see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's jealousy. And so, like, and then when you say, well, then, you're welcome to go back, then, oh shit, then, oh, well, boom,
yeah.
now you're racist, and now there's going to be a fight, and da 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 da.
Mhm.
It's like, if it's so much better where where your ancestors come from, why the hell are you here? You know,
Exactly.
I mean, it just admits the fact that they're wrong, you know, and
Hmm.
that if anything, they should be protecting us. You see what I'm saying? Like, if you want
Yeah.
to continue living in a stable society and having XYZ, then you better love white people. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying?
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm a firm believer, as I said before, in line with the topic, our our soul comes through from our ancestors, and so does the culture. The culture is bred out of the person's people with their tendencies, their impulses, their inclinations, the ways of thinking, and all of that
Yeah.
shapes the culture, shapes the environment. It's not the reverse. The environment does not shape the person. um,
Right.
and no one else will ever be able to repeat Europe. No one else can
Never.
uphold
No.
Europe to the
No.
standard that it is. No one but
Definitely.
Europeans,
Definitely.
and that's just hard
Yeah.
facts and truths.
And that it all boils down to DNA, and that's part of like what our last show was about, was like the sacredness of our DNA,
Yeah,
and how
exactly.
we need to think of it that way. We need to think of it that way.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so that's a beautiful, beautiful concept.
So
And I'll be happy if I can just get the basics of this art down and then start layering up some color. And then I'm having this issue of like, okay, so I've got the bones of it. I've got the bones of the drawing, not literal, of course, I'm just drawing skulls here, but like the structure, the framework. Now what? How do I use color? Is it black and white?
mm,
Um, like, can I combine? How can I combine the materials, the art materials, in such a way that is aesthetically pleasing,
yeah.
and that there could be something beautiful there?
So
But
you've
I
got
think that
the menacing figure in between them that's almost like tempting fate, so to speak.
so
You,
again, the lighting is a little rough, but you can see the two
let me
hands.
bring yours up in my
Okay.
stream, so it's more apparent. Yeah, there we are. Yeah, that's looking pretty strong. I quite like that. I like the composition, and
I think it's. Oh, go ahead.
that's very good.
There's like three parts to this. Essentially, you've
Hmm.
got the puppet master in the background with the broken
Yeah.
strings. The obviously the two figures from World War II, And then underground here, I've got all these skulls. So
Hmm.
I think even with very little information, the or knowledge about World War II and this, these things, there's enough information here to get the meaning across.
Yeah.
Like we're not going to fight and kill each other anymore. There's been much too much of it. You have
Mm.
to wonder, like, how many bloodlines were wiped out through World War I and World War II.
I
It's
know. You
very
know,
horrible. It's
when you
very
think about the
horrible.
continuation, if there was no World War One or two, the continuation of the
Yeah.
Europeans would have been
Um,
astronomical. We probably would have. I mean, what, we're at 8% now or so world population. We probably would be at
yeah.
least, I would say, arguably 30%. Um,
Interesting.
and
Yeah.
when you look at what's going off in Ukraine, um, it's
Yeah.
tragic.
Yeah.
It's tragic. All the younger men are being killed off, and with
Yeah.
BlackRock, who pretty much own Ukraine now, at least have got
Yeah.
the purchase rights to, do all the infrastructure. They basically own Ukraine now, and they're obviously going to bring in all the sort of globalization rhetoric and
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right.
yeah,
They're
it's
already doing that.
interesting
It's it's
times.
it's evil as hell. It's evil as hell. It's totally evil. Of course, everyone in my audience, we all know who's in charge of this. This is like the new Holodomor, but it's more corporate. If
Hmm.
you think of it that way, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Um, so just terrible. Um, one of my friends and followers, guy goes by the name CG. He does a uh, weekly show called the Warcast.
Okay.
Um, it's on Odyssey. It's definitely not acceptable on YouTube. And he's a military guy, and he does really deep dives on Ukraine. The theme of the show is exactly the war in Ukraine, and
Right,
so
right.
uh, and he's got to know how to pronounce all those names and do all that
Hmm.
kind of stuff. But if anyone's interested in doing a deep dive on that, look up the Warcast. The co-host guy goes by the name Dirty D. I've been on the show before. I'm always like, since I'm buddies with him, I'm like, yeah, let's do this. Whatever. It's always fun to do stuff together. And he's been on my show a bunch of times.
Yeah.
But I'm like, dude, I don't know anything about Ukraine. I can't really talk intelligently about this. I can just give you like hot takes or whatever. Anyway, it's something to look into. No, so check this out. Now the globalists are targeting Japan. Now
Yeah.
there's information. Have you heard about that, or are you
Well,
familiar with
you
that?
mentioned it last on the gaming stream,
Yeah.
didn't you? Um,
Yeah, I guess I did. I don't remember, but yeah,
yeah, you
I'd say
mentioned it on the
so.
gaming stream, and you said that it's actually becoming a lot more multicultural now. I've seen some videos actually of the kind of typical altercations that we have in Europe with different racial groups. That kind of
Yeah,
stuff
there's
kicking off there,
r-
which is very strange to
well,
see.
not.
And I'm
Oh,
not
it's
sure,
horrible to see. Yeah,
but I
I just
mean,
saw a clip. Go ahead.
sorry, I was just going to mention it and make a point about the Japanese. I know they're kind of, they know the martial arts and stuff, but they're I think generally a lot smaller, aren't they? So I'm not sure how they will fare up.
Yeah, and not every Japanese person knows martial arts or whatever either. That's not necessarily that. They live in they're extremely homogenous, like extremely homogenous. So having a guy from Somalia come and like harass people on the train, and videotape it for live stream it for Instagram and for views and shit. Like the police caught him and they basically tortured him.
Wow.
And that
So
was
they
that
don't
was also shown
they don't mess
on,
about.
yeah, they don't fuck around with
Okay.
these people, and I hope that it stays like that. um I know that sounds harsh, but what you guys already know what's going on. The problem, as I see it, is not so much these kind of like assholes that come in and do that, but now they're paying off people in Japan to start using Marxist talking points, and they're talking about Japanese privilege now. And I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Like,
Wow.
honestly, go fuck yourself. Like, Japanese privilege, please, please don't do this. And
It's just
so,
unbelievable, isn't it?
you
Japanese
know how it works,
privilege.
right?
Yeah, well, of course we know how it works.
There's nowhere in the world where, quote, they can't have their fingers in the power structures and shit. So let me read some comments here. Hippocratic Oath says, I have a feeling Charles Lindbergh is off the page smiling. Yes, sirree, Bob. My channel says, we say, they must really miss paved roads and electric. I guess maybe in where I lost the context of that. Or anyway, stop bringing their mud hut ideology to us. Yeah, bingo. Moving on, we got Hippocratic Oath. There is video of a Chinese scolding a South African with that the time of colon. Oh, I know this video. Yeah, the time. That the time of colonization was the time to learn from whites. Now South Africa has to turn to China to help keep their place running. So yeah, that's a crazy clip. There's an African man who speaks Chinese, and the Chinese guy is just like unashamedly saying like, you guys had whites here for so long, you fucked up so bad. Like, why didn't you learn from them? You could have had a great society. And like, and the black man's just got this look on his face like, he's just, couldn't. He's trying to make some little excuses, but that's the things, like the Chinese don't hold any punches. They're not white. They don't have this kind of like polite Christian culture where you're going to be nice to people and stuff. They'll just say it as they, yeah. Well, your piece is looking really nice.
It's I mean it's just the composition right now. I mean, people probably look and think it looks like something going to be done for a cartoon or like a child's book, but I can assure you, when this is finished, it will.
Yeah.
And it won't be finished today. But you'll have to tune in to my channel and follow the video for the final version, and we'll always preview our artworks the following week. But this will essentially be mega structures with statues, and similar to my other work, if you've seen, where I like to take statues and embed them in general landscapes and make them just look megalithic and play with the depth of field.
I really love your sensibility towards your art, the as you say, the megalithic quality to it. I've noticed that, like, for example, your scale is enormous, and you have like this very, very far distance, and it's just really beautiful. I feel like the way that I'm working on these sort of like smaller sheets of paper that fit in front of my camera, because I'm working within the limitations of what the camera can show. That limits me in terms of what I could do. I'd love to have a much larger sheet of paper to work from.
Yeah,
but at the same time, I think that they're very immediate pieces. They're the work that I've been doing for this show. I don't know. It's just communicating these ideas well. At the point where I'm at with this is trying to figure out, what do I want to do with the background? Do I want to, should I make it all black? Should I maybe give it a sort of a sunburst kind of quality with light in the center and then darker as it goes out? That would perhaps give it more depth of field. I think that's what it needs, because this is very, very flat as it is.
Well, it's just a line drawing right now, isn't it? So it's hard to gauge, I think. I think you've got a very strong start, but it looks like it's going to take another few hours to finish that, at least. I don't know how fast you'll work. No?
It's hard to say at this point, because I haven't 100% decided what I want to do with it. But I guess I am sort of feeling like if I were to put like, say, a dark black outline here. Then again, this is really actually a positive piece. It's not a gloomy piece. Granted that you've got the skulls and the whole war theme, but maybe there should be a sunrise in the background.
Mm, could be.
That
In
Do you see
between
what I'm
them,
saying? Like,
in between them.
yeah, that's kind of what I'm. Yeah, I don't know if that is, would that be too hokey? Whereas
Um,
if I just simply made, I could just simply put like a brighter color or like a light yellow or something of that nature to imply that. Um, and this, excuse me, this sort of menacing figure on the top, maybe I'm thinking that it could be more transparent and not like
hmm.
a hard physical image per se. Um,
It's a
so
tough one. It's a
these
tough
are
one
the
because
decisions.
if you
What's
have the
that?
sun, mind you, that would look good if it
Mhm.
would illuminate off the. If you had a sunrise, it would
Mhm.
illuminate the guy in the back with the beard, and generally, when you do uplighting towards a character, it makes them look even more sinister. So it could work quite well,
Um,
actually.
I see what you're saying. The decisions on how the light is going to work in this is extremely critical. In terms of like the mood and the meaning. 'Cause that's a kind of a funny way to put it. The mood and the meaning. They have to
Hmm.
align, kind of balance or support each other. Um, I don't know. And then there's the question of like, say for example, using historically accurate colors on the uniforms, so that kind of pushes that narrative more clearly. Um, I think just the shape and the drawing conveys that well enough, but I guess I feel like it would look nicer though. So there's this question of like, should it be monochromatic? What if I were to? This is a
Choices,
tough part
choices, eh?
about being
Choices.
an artist. Yeah, it's like, because in my mind, I with the art, the line art, I can visualize like a couple different color palettes to use with this.
Hmm.
Almost like even the trick with the the sunrise is that it could look like a sunset, and I don't want it to look like that. I feel like I could probably just get away with a sort of a sunburst color where it's bright in the center and then darker as it goes out. How colorful do I want it? That's another question.
Hmm.
I just don't want it to be like hokey or campy or something like that. Like, it's already fairly illustrative in and of itself.
Yeah.
And the theme, there's obviously some dark issues here, right? It's World War II. Um, tough choices, tough choices.
Sure, you get
What?
next
Anybody in
year.
the audience? Anyone in the audience want to chime in on that? What are your thoughts?
What else could you have? Yes.
In the meantime, I can work on some other aspects of it. So that's
Len
just what I'll
Graham
do.
from the chat says, "Well done, lads. Looking forward to the results. Thank you, Len." And
Cool.
yes, we will be posting them throughout the week and definitely previewing them next show. Also, just a reminder that we are looking to get the topic out for next week's show early, so it will be posted tomorrow, or at least the poll will be out tomorrow, so you can vote on it, and then it will be ready to go, made official by the evening, Wednesday evening. And so then, if anyone wants to take part, which we hope people do start to take part, because we're looking to get more and more people creating on the same themes and topics. And then you'll have until sort of the next Tuesday, almost a week, to submit something, whether you want to write a poem, whether you want to do an illustration like Donald, or some digital art, or a graphic art piece, whatever it is. We can all get on board the same topic and just continue to push out sort of white, positive white stuff, and fortify our own culture, and
Yeah.
just be of a positive mind for our people. A lot of people are
Wonderful.
black people, aren't
Wonderful.
they, at the moment?
A bit. Yeah. A bit. Yeah. On that topic, I think actually maybe we can wrap it up for today. We've been going about an hour and a half now, so I think that's pretty good.
Yes.
And then we will reconvene next week and see what's shaking and how far we've come, and looking forward to the poll and seeing what what can be done in terms of like what choices. I want to thank everybody in the audience for coming. And so I guess we'll say thanks again to Paul and the audience. And I think we're working on some really cool stuff here. Catch up next week, and we'll see you soon. Okay.
All right, guys.
Anything fun? Sorry, I keep cutting you
yeah,
off.
no, I was just gonna say to tune into the Patriotic Arts community or the White Art Collective, wherever you're from. Get involved within our circles. And so you can find us on Telegram, or just go straight to the website, patrioticarts.community, and follow us, or Patriotic Arts on Telegram as well. So yeah, tune in, same time next week. It's Tuesday, 6 p.m. GMT.
Excellent. And 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You guys have a wonderful day.